good, meaningful movers? Welcome back to Moving With Me in the podcast, where actions have meaning, words have meaning, and we open up the conversations to discover what's your next move. I'm your host, Krystal. In today's episode, we are going to encourage a yawn or two. Really, we are going to embrace exhaustion, but with a bit of a plot twist. But you know how we do it here. We need to set that theme. So let's go ahead and do that. The word of the day is abandon. Stick with me here. If you are thinking of giving up or desertion, okay, that's one definition. But what about the upside of being in pursuit of a mission without inhibition or restraint? What a thrill it is to indulge in the spontaneity on taking on a purpose you believe in with so much passion. That's enough of me talking. How about we introduce our guest? And there's no one better to do that than himself, Dr. John. Why don't you give the people a bit of background about yourself and what you are going to share with us today?
All right, Krystal, it's always good to talk to you. We've talked before, but I am Dr. Bijoy John. I'm a board-certified sleep specialist. I've been practicing this for 25 years, and this is my passion. I also have intensive care and lung background. I've given all that to pursue this for the last 5 years. I've been doing this full-time. Finally decided to write a book called Nobody's Sleeping, 7 Proven Sleep Strategies for Better Health and Happiness. I've combined all my years of experience, and practical it works. So I've said, let me share this world, and I'm ready. I am on your podcast, and I just want your audience to just feel the joy of sound sleep so that they can be the best version of themselves.
Ooh, that sounds good to me. I mean, I do love to sleep, and when I say sleep, uninterrupted sleep. We'll get to my story here in a bit. I want to hear a bit more about you. So tell me about why sleep is such a major contributor, or what, I guess, drew you to sleep out of 4 different specialties. Let's start there.
Yes, perfect question. My mom taught me how to sleep. She taught me how to nap. So I felt after the sleep, you feel so rejuvenated, especially like you mentioned, the great sleep, right? I had my own struggles, being in medical school, you don't sleep hardly. You're on caffeine going all the time. Then residency, 36-hour shifts, fellowship, same thing. I spent 14 years training for this. So I went to med school when I was 17. So I have a lot of experience with this. But then I kind of, said to myself, exams are going to be part of my life. So I had to find a way. So stress is a big deal for anybody who's, who are in performance, who or she in great positions. So, but we have to find and accept it first. The stress is going to be a part of it. And how do you get through it? And then, when my mom passed away due to grief, I was suffering. I couldn't sleep. So I overcame that. And then as a small business owner, I moved from my practice, left all that, the high flying life in Nashville as an ICU doctor. And then, start my own business. Then you have employees, bills. So I had to find a way to overcome that. So to answer a question, why do you think sleep is the most important thing? Sleep is the foundation on which weight and getting yourself better is built on, right? So once you don't have that foundation without sleep, you can't do the fitness exercise program because you're tired. And then if you don't sleep well, you're going to gain weight because it changes we can get into it as we talk along. So that's the foundation. And in my ICU, I've seen people with heart problem, who have diabetes, uncontrolled blood pressure, memory problems. The underlying factor that we can treat is sleep problems. So sleep is tied to all these things: memory, your heart, the way you feel, learning. So why not go into the preventative aspect and help teach people sleep better so we can prevent these dreaded conditions? So that's why I said I'm going to do this full time. And then I said, I see this on and off. And I said, let's move this and write a book. So here I am.
Oh, I love that. You mentioned to me about reactive medicine and moving to preventative medicine.
Correct.
How does focusing on sleep move you out of reactive and then into preventative?
Correct. So the number one treatable, let's say you have high blood pressure, the number one treatable cause of high blood pressure is correcting your sleep apnea. So you don't have to be on a lot of pills. So I get a lot of referrals, hey, Dr. John, I can't control their blood pressure. I think they have sleep apnea. So just by controlling your sleep apnea, your blood pressure is controlled. So when you control your blood pressure, you don't have cardiovascular problems, stroke, heart attack, see you completely. Same thing with diabetes. Another consult I get is uncontrolled blood sugar. So one of the treatable causes is, again, control of your sleep apnea, which controls, blood sugar. Why is that, Krystal, you may ask? So when you're not sleeping well, or when you have an apnea, or you stop breathing, the body goes into this hyperdrive. It makes the norepinephrine, the adrenaline response at night. So even though you're sleeping, you are all wired up or jacked up. Your body is not resting. So your blood sugar and your blood pressure are high at night. Everybody's is high during the day because, we're hustling, the hustle culture. But at rest, when deep sleep, you just relax and your blood pressure normalizes and your blood sugar normalizes. But if you don't sleep well and you have conditions like sleep apnea, you are not balancing that. So that's the first step in controlling these disorders.
That's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me bring up 2 points here. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I know just for me, this is my personal experience. So I just have trouble sleeping and I know why.
Right.
You're exactly right. I'm like jacked up to the T.
Yes.
It'll be 6 o'clock. My kids come to me and they're like, you need to go to bed, because they know that it takes me a certain amount of time to wind down, like literally 3 hours. So if I go to bed at 8, I am going to be up for a certain amount of time because I need I don't know what you call it, but the low time. I need the time to just relax. I was pushing myself, when the kids were younger, I was doing a lot more with them. I would put them down by like 7 or 8. Well, that meant that I didn't go down till almost an hour after that. And I had to get right back up in the morning because I had to get them ready for school. Daycare opens like 5:30. So it's like I'm in the midst of just running, and I'm just exhausted throughout the day that I would go and take naps in my car.
Yes.
What would happen is during the day when I don't get a full night's rest, I wake up with tons of anxiety because I never got it out throughout that night. It's interesting you said something about sleep apnea because my husband has this. Yeah. He also has a history of heart problems and heart disease in his family.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
Yeah, because he was snoring. Yes. So in my head, you were telling me about people with sleep apnea, they're not sleeping. I'm like, really? Are you sure? Because this snoring makes me believe he is in a deep coma. You know what I mean? And one time I woke up because he didn't snore. You know what happened?
That's an apnea.
Yes, I woke up. It was dead silent. And I saw he wasn't breathing. That his chest wasn't moving. I was like shaking him. I'm like, oh my God, get up. And he was like, what's going on? And I said, you stopped breathing. And he goes, oh, and turns over and goes back to sleep like it wasn't a problem. I'm like, no, you need to get checked. So now he doesn't really wear that mask. But now he's dealing with high blood pressure. So as you were just saying all of that stuff, I was like, hello, dude, you need to get some sleep.
Yes, Krystal, you touched on 3 things here, right? 1, women's sleep is so nuanced. So I'm very passionate about women's sleep, as a respect to my mom, who taught me how to sleep. So I dedicated a chapter for women in my book, right? Number 2, you talked about stress, anxiety. Sleep and stress, anxiety, and depression have a bi-directional relationship. If you don't sleep well, you're going to be anxious. And if you're anxious, you don't sleep well. You see what I'm saying? So we got to break that cycle. So I have a chapter on that too. And next, you talked about snoring. We talked about sleep apnea. So there is this terminology which I'm going to introduce to all your viewers. It's called sleep divorce. Couples sleeping separately because of the snoring is otherwise called environmental sleep disorder. But if you look at society, they are saying couples, it's okay to sleep separately. But no, it changes the dynamics of the relationship. There's something very spiritual about couples sleeping together. So my aim is to bring the couples back together, so the one spouse is leaving because of the sound. So the snoring is a dangerous warning sign. So imagine water going through a pipe and you're narrowing the pipe, it creates the turbulence. Same thing, air is going through a narrow passage and that's the reverberation or the sound. That's what snoring is. And eventually there's no flow, and that's the apnea. The apnea is derived from the Greek word called apnea, which is the stopping breathing. So then the brain sensor says, hey, you're not breathing, dude. So the carbon dioxide builds up and you take a breath. But what happens if that sensor gets weak or doesn't turn on? That's why people die in their sleep.
Oh my God.
The famous football player, Reggie White, his wife first made this public about the campaign about sleep apnea cause of death. So it can.
Yeah.
Just like any sensor at home, the tripping, it doesn't happen sometimes. So the famous elbow therapy, most of the time the spouse elbows. So the question becomes, it's usually common in men because men's larynx are bigger. It's like a trumpet. As the air goes narrow, the larynx becomes bigger, so the voice is amplified, the long trumpet. So women's larynx is smaller, so women don't snore much. But women, when they undergo menopause, you lose your estrogen, which keeps everything tight. So everything becomes to sag, and the back of your throat also sags. There's higher incidence of sleep apnea in women after menopause. Men report early. Men's symptoms becomes in 40, 45 when the testosterone drops because of the size of the larynx and the little thing that vibrates on the back of the throat called the uvula. Those vibrations are, they are bigger in men. So that's why men have a little bit more earlier diagnosis than women. So we covered a lot of things here.
Yes, that little story threw some knowledge dropping on you, right?
Yes,
okay, people.
yes.
Okay, so you brought something up that made me think about this, okay, with women, okay, in particular. So weight, okay?
Huge.
Yeah, so I know my husband will disagree and be like, wait, well, then we need to get my wife checked because, Krystal, you snore. Yeah. You do. And I'm like, if I'm snoring, I'm in a deep sleep. Leave me. Leave me alone. Don't touch me,
Oh, no, Krystal, snoring is a bad sign. You got to get that checked
Yeah.
out.
So I'm like 5'1", 130 over thereabouts. Okay. I have other folks who I know and their weight is heavier, either diabetic, like you said, they're obese or they're borderline obese or something like that. And I hear them snoring. So how does sleep and weight work as well?
Great question. A third of my patients are normal weight. It all depends on how the jaw is built because that's the conduit. I call it the crossroads, like an intersection where the food passage and the air passage meet. That is narrowed by genetic reason, or if you have an overbite, meaning your jaw is pushed back, then the back of your throat is narrow. We're talking about millimeters, right? So it depends. It's not all related to weight if how is the way you are born, right? So the back of the throat is narrow. And especially when you lay on your back, what happens? Gravity pushes the tongue backwards. So that's why snoring is so bad when you lay on your back because of the gravity of the tongue. In children, when they have big tonsils, which blocks the airway, so that simple tonsillectomy and removal of the adenoids will cure that. And then your question, why does weight? So what happens, Krystal? When we gain weight all over the place. It's evenly distributed. So imagine that weight and the fat is, in the back of the throat. So now you may be compromised the way you're built. That's also a hereditary reason. If your parents have sleep apnea, so you're predisposed already there. Then your weight gain, and then your hormones are getting lower, either the testosterone or the estrogen. So now, and when you lay on your back, you are a perfect setup. I just want to tell you, viewers and everybody talks about sleep apnea, but there's a word before that. Do you know what that is? It's called obstructive sleep apnea. So it's a literal obstruction. The back of the throat is being obstructed. Now you get it? Now it all falls into place, right? So that's what it's called, obstructive sleep apnea, which is an easily treatable condition. I mean, I tell people it adds 10 years to your life. So
I believe it. It does make sense.
Yes.
Now that you're saying this, is this why those beds that have like the backs that move up, you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Is that why they've become a lot more popular now? Like, I'm serious. Like, is that something that I need to be investing in?
No, it only helps partially. Just remember that the obstruction is within. So you're changing from the outside. This problem can only fixed from inside out. We cannot fix it from outside. And just like as a human being, you have to change from within. So we're going in the spiritual path here. So this obstruction is literally inside. So the changing of the position of the head will change a little bit. And the pillow, there's a huge market. And there's only partially right. There's so much misinformation out there. The mattress people will, try to sell you that, and the pillow people will, but it's only partial answer. The real problem is within, and how are you going to fix that, right? So to answer your question, it fixes those partially.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah, because those commercials have me sold. I'm like, we need to go and get this immediately. But I'm glad that you said that, because I've known people who said that, oh yeah, I've invested in that, I get great sleep, so thank you for adding that. I did, before we get to your sleep now proven strategies, just to get some time in, you mentioned the hustle culture.
Yes, yes.
And you want to be the world leading expert in this. So what about the hustle culture impacts sleep to you?
Sleep is the anti-hustle, right? You can hustle your way to sleep. In today's world, everybody is on the hustle. Everybody wants to know about their sleep. They're wearing this monitor, that monitor. They're trying to data analyze into sleep. You can't do it. One of the commonest reason for people seeing me say, I wore this wearable, I call them the wearables device, and I see my REM sleep is this much, my non-REM. So what? What you going to do about it? You only worry about it and lose more sleep. I tell people to have the data. That's good. Do what I tell you to do and then do it later. Just every day looking at it. So this technology, this information is anti-sleep. So my aim is to be the guy educating people to get it in the right way. There is no magic fix. It's a hard way, but sleep is an anti-hustle. You can buy or work your way into it. Everybody wants everything on and off. Sleep doesn't work like that. Sleep is a dimmer. There's an art to it. That's the only function, which is the super function that is, you can. Like muscle, I lifted weights. My muscles are looking good now. I'm ready. I did my exercise. You can do that, but sleep is totally the opposite. And I'm ready to teach your audience how to get that sweet sleep as we go along, Krystal.
Okay, that's a great segue into your Sleep Now 7 proven strategies. Yes. And the Sleep Now is an acronym, folks. So Dr. John is pretty brilliant here. Okay, we already know he's a doctor, but we didn't think he was a wizard with words, did we? So tell us about the Sleep Now.
Always fun to have this conversation because you are able to bring the best out of the guests. Thank you so much. So my title of my book is Nobody's Sleeping. That's what I see every day, right? So the subtitle is 7 Proven Sleep Strategies, right? So my daughter, who's in law school, she's like, Dad, we need an acronym. So I was working out right on my Peloton. I just formed SLEEPNOW. So folks, please write it down. Sleep Now is the acronym. The first is S. S is schedule. It's like a plan. If for any project to succeed, you need to have a plan, right? So I tell people to sleep between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. That's your time. But if you go to bed at 10 and cannot fall asleep till midnight, guess what everybody's doing? They go to bed earlier. So now you're struggling from 9 to 12. Then it becomes an anxiety problem, right? So I tell people, if you're falling asleep at 12, go to bed closer to the time you fell asleep, around 11:30. But you have to wake up at 6 in the morning. That's the most important thing. So I'm trying to build a sleep pressure. So eventually, when you start sleeping at 11:30, you move to 11:15, 11, and then move it forward. Easy, but it will take at least 2 weeks. My whole course, which I have on my website, will take 6 weeks. But to see a change, you will need at least 2 weeks. So next is the L. L is low light, low noise, low temperature. Why? The melatonin is only secreted when the temperature is low. That's why when you have this fancy vacation in the tropics, you're not sleeping because it's hot, right? But guess what? The mattress industry and every industry found the cooling. So people are spending a lot of money on cooling, but it's just a part. You can't just cool your way to sleep. Duh. And low light. You have to have shades. Again, mela means darkness. Melatonin is only secreted in darkness, right? And then low noise, of course, people live in big cities and close to railway tracks. They don't sleep because of the noises and interference. Next, we are going to my favorite E, the electronics. Oh my God, electronics. So the challenge is, since COVID, everybody's working from their bedrooms. They've taken every the devices and the phone. The challenge is when in the bedroom, you don't have ambient light, right? So the light from your phone is much brighter and it's telling your brain, hey, it's still daytime, you don't need to go to sleep. Remember, melatonin only in darkness. It won't happen. Actually, I don't use my phone at least an hour prior, but for practical people, I tell people not to be on the phone at least 30 minutes prior to going to sleep. Next, I tell them to keep the phone not close to you, keep it in my bathroom. So I set an alarm. I literally have to wake up, turn the alarm off, and I'm ready for the day. Because, we all wake up and then you look at the clock. Wow, it's 3 o'clock. Wow, it's only 3 o'clock. Then it increases the cognitive activity and then you can't sleep well, right? Electronics is a big, big thing, all right? People ask me, I'm not addicted. It's very easy. If you wake up in the morning, the first thing you're looking at your phone, you have cell phone addiction, period. Full stop. That's it. We are all addicted to our phones. We have to accept that. All right. So we did the electronics. Next is exercise. So when you exercise, you're making heat and endorphins. Those are against sleep. You don't, against a high temperature, our body does not secrete, melatonin at a higher temperature. I exercise in the morning. Make sure you exercise at least 4 hours prior to going to sleep. Right? So you don't have that endorphin and the heat that's produced because of that, right? So now listen, you're calming your mind and you're calming your body. This is all in preparation. You have to do all this. P is the beautiful thing, power of your mind. You can't power off your mind with your phone next to you. See what happens, people are listening to meditation music, which is great. I tell people to do it outside the bed, because once you are doing it on the bed, something will happen, trigger, the likes, hey, what's going on, bills. So I tell people to do that and then, come and, don't have the phone close to you. I have also 2 techniques. Is vivid imagination. So vivid imagination is a fancy term. So when you lay down, I don't want to bring reality into the bed. I want the abstract. I want you to be your own creator. I do this every night. This is how I go to sleep. I think of something in abstract. I saw a show yesterday and I thought about the show and then I drifted to sleep. You don't want to think reality in bed. This is my own technique. It's there, but for sleeping, I'm the first guy to help people sleep better. And then also I tell people to do yoga nidra. Nidra means nothingness in Sanskrit word. So you lay down, hands up. It's like a corpse pose. And then you can focus on your breathing. Andrew Weil is a nice technique to, breathing technique, focus on different parts of the body. This is the cognitive behavioral therapy combination. So you have these to power off your mind. But remember, you've already calmed your body. You've given all the other stimuli like the phone away from you. You have to do all this. Your bedroom is cool. You see how you do? Now, N-O, I've combined the N-O. No to worries. We all worry as human beings. We live in this world. We have to worry. I tell people to worry between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. Not to worry after that. So if you can't solve a problem, if you have bills to pay, write it down. You can do it tomorrow, right? Don't bring that to your bedroom. Bed is only for sleep and sex, not for snoring or worrying. Right.
I love it. Speak it.
And then the W is win by losing yourself. You can win. I told you before, sleep is the anti-hustle. You have to let loose, have an easy routine, and you have to lose yourself for once. That's the only way we're going to sleep better. So SLEP, schedule, low light, no electronics, no exercise, 4 hours, power of your mind, no to worries, and win by losing. Remember, it is a dimmer. It's not an on-off. So this is my 7 proven sleep strategies. And I also have, even in my book and my website, I have people to analyze their sleep pattern. I make people to write down. You can't technology your way into sleep. You can data mine into your sleep. You can't. So I make people write it down. It's called my sleep log. And you can see your sleep pattern improve within 2 weeks. So that's it.
I like that. Those are good. Okay, so we have to do them all, right?
Yes.
It's not
Yes.
one. Okay,
Yes.
right. So, okay, good.
Yes.
You mentioned an athlete earlier and how, just coaches push athletes. And I'm worried about this because my youngest son is an avid baseball player. Like, he's super into baseball, and I know I'm pushing him. My daughter's in cheer. To be honest with it, she's pushing herself. So 2 of my kids are strong athletic individuals. So I want to know a little bit about that from you on how I can kind of help coach them and bring this positive and informative information to them.
Great question. So I'm also passionate about children's health, because once you sleep well as a child, you can do, because life happens. Nobody sleeps. Adults are not sleeping because of many responsibilities. We have to work ourselves. So first question, Krystal, if your child is sleeping well, I would pursue that. If they are not sleeping well, any child less than 20 years or before they go to college, 18, they come and tell you, Mom or Dad, I'm not sleeping well. We got to pause, take a time out, because that is a cry for help. So because they can describe what's going on, That's the first question I ask anybody who wants to excel. How are they sleeping? So because I get a lot of parents tell me, Dr. John, I want to bring your child to see, and then I never see them. What happened? One of those child went to college and ended it all. So it became a personal message to me that I felt so bad that I should have called that child, right? So then what I did, I called all the other parents who had told me I need to bring my child. And then all the other children had either anxiety or depression. Yep. So that's the underlying. So now, once you rule that out, there was a huge study done which shows more than 40% of the athletes don't sleep well because of the time commitments. They have to study and they work out late. Remember, when you exercise, you're not going to sleep well. The stress, performance, going to professional athletes, they have the muscular build and the weight, and then the schedule is even, so they have more sleep disorders like sleep apnea, restless legs, insomnia. There is an athletic sleep screening questionnaire. I think I am a big proponent of all the athletes, coaches, if anybody else listening, they need to have your athletes screened for that. So the sleep problems are more in athletes than the general population, especially if they are college or high school. They also have academic responsibilities on top of it. So make sure your child is sleeping well, and then make sure if they're snoring or if they're tired, you address all those problems.
Fantastic. Well, you've dropped some wise wisdom on us. Do you have some golden nuggets that you want to add some ketchup just to recap?
Yes. Everybody thinks, they can put sleep on the back burner. The common thing is you can sleep when you die. I tell people you're going to die if you don't sleep well, right? So the challenge here, Krystal, is sleep problems don't hurt like a toothache. We put it behind, but it catches up with you. Once you get it, it is a foundation for, brain memory building, exercise, weight loss. So it is the most important thing. I call it the superpower. It's a perfect function. It's above all other functions. Once you discover it, you want more of it. All my patients, they come miserably, years of suffering, and I tell them to do this program for 6 weeks, and they're like, wow, they reluctant, but when they get it, they're ready to go. I know how it is not to feel sleep, not sleep well. I know firsthand, I went through it and I found a way, and I want to share it, and that's my mission and that's my passion, and I want to reach as much. There's so much bad information out there. But, I'm a real doctor practicing, still in practicing real people, right? So I wanted to share real experiences. I have a lot of stories in my book, and hopefully your listeners and the world can heal, they can learn, they can grow, and, everybody can be happy.
That's the episode today. Are you dealing with sleep loss, difficulty falling to sleep, staying asleep? Have you noticed a change in routine, a rise in stress, a decrease in health and weight management, or has mental fatigue got you by the you-know-what-a? As a chronic insomniac, I know what it is like to crave sleep and the anxiety I feel through the struggle and emotional drain in a day without uninterrupted sleep. I'll settle for just the acknowledgement from you guys because that's always the first step. Now that you have the awareness and information, let's go about it and be about it. That's why I appreciate Dr. John sharing his journey and curiosity that set him on a mission to be an agent of change for sleep, and with so much joy that it's infectious. In a good way. I know we're talking to a doctor here. I hope the Sleep Now strategies Dr. John presented hit home with you, so much so you check out his book, Nobody's Sleeping, 7 Proven Sleep Strategies. And as a previous guest of mine has said, 7 is the number of completion.
That's it.
Even if you have made the necessary changes in your mind, body, and soul to improve your sleep, drop some feedback and engage with Dr. John on his platforms, because as much as Dr. John is an agent of change, he's also a student to the many variants of life to consider. I love it all, and so will someone else. Before I let you go, Dr. John, why don't you go ahead and remind the people who you are, where they can find your resources or reach out to you.
All right. Thanks, Krystal. It was a pleasure to talk to you. And it's, of course, my website is all the information, sleepfixacademy.com. It's got, everything you guys need. So I want everybody to be empowered with the superpower, which is there for the asking. It's free, but you have to have a way to get it. You have to have, it's like a back door. You can hustle your way. You can power your way. You have to take it easy. And that's the message I'm trying to preach in this hustle culture. I wish there was a magic pill or a magic technique, but you have to have all 7 to sleep better. So sleep well, be well, and let's go sleeping.
I'll make sure to include all of Dr. John's resources and connections in the episode description, as well as on my website's resources page, movingwithmeaning.com. Make sure you guys subscribe to the show, Moving With Meaning, the podcast, and tap that alert bell so you know when these episodes drop. I am on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and YouTube Music. Please share, like, repost, and follow. Tag someone. We are creating a community here. Quick housekeeping before you go. Follow me on Instagram at movingwithmeaning82. Also, connect with me on LinkedIn. I do dabble in TikTok at Krystal B. Clark. My YouTube channel is up. Kindly run over there and have a look or two. Links are in the episode. Alrighty. I'm Krystal on Moving with Meaning, the podcast, reminding you to take it one step at a time. All moves have meaning. Check y'all later.